Kia ora everybody. I'm talking to Dave Perry, otherwise known as Vanator Outdoors, although you're also now known as the Flannel Hunter or something like that, isn't it, Dave? Tell us about the new handle.
Oh yeah, bro. Well, sort of, I sort of got over people calling me Vanator Outdoors, and I was sort of probably better off putting a name to it. And yeah, there's too many Dave Perrys on there, so I just thought, I seem to be hunting in a flannelette shirt all the time, so I just put Flannelette Hunter. So might be a bit easier for people, I guess.
Mate, and why do you go to the authentic flannel shirt? Because they're a hardy little item, the old flannel shirt.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think with the hunting, obviously, because I wanted to build my own brand. I think all my gear was pretty much Hunter's Element and Stony Creek. So I sort of wanted to rock around in something that wasn't really branded. And the only thing I had was these old flannelette shirts, and I sort of always followed the deer wars and the old deer colours, and obviously had the 303 hunting with that. So I sort of put two and two together and went for the old deer colour vibe, really. So yeah, out came the Flannelette Hunter, really.
Yeah, nice. And that's the sort of thing that social media is great for introducing you to all the gears. And I bought those First Light pants, which are outstanding, but I was quick to state that I had all the gear, not really all the gear, but some gear, and no idea what I was doing. And when I always look at the the new gears out, or the new bows, or the new scopes, or whatever, and like you say, talking back to the 303 and the deer colour days, it's easy, you just quickly remind yourself that wasn't what got them the deer and made this country short on deer for a little while. It was just about actually guys getting out on the hill, doing it and applying some good skills, which that's where I'm probably a little bit short on, because my hunting adventures are few and far between. Is that something that resonates with you as well? It's more about the doing than what you're wearing?
Yeah, bro. Like to be honest, I sort of wanted a new challenge too. Because I did like a lot of long range shooting, and I always had the classic Kiwi hunter with a 308, and all the gears, and so I wanted a new challenge, and I had a really good love of history, so I really liked the military style firearms. So most of my 303s are ex-New Zealand, ex-New Zealand Expeditionary Force. So the Jungle Carbine comes out of, I think it was used just after post-World War II by New Zealand forces, and we've got the Mark IV there, which was, I believe, was the start of the Second World War. And I've got a couple of other ones there. The barrels are sort of looking like the bloody like a dried up creek bed, so they're not very accurate. But so I wouldn't actually take them hunting, more for ethical reasons. But yeah, I think it was really getting out there, trying to be a little bit more physical in a different way, because I was quite bored of I wasn't bored. I think bored's probably the wrong word. I was keen to try something else. So going on these bigger hunts up into the Kawikas and stuff, where you sort of got to, you really got to look after your fitness, walking up those hills and all that sort of stuff. So that was more for the different challenge in hunting. And with those, with the iron sights, you got to be a lot closer. So I sort of had varying success with it. But yeah, that was the main sort of go-to obviously for the flannelette shirt and the old plus it's cheaper, a lot cheaper to hunt that sort of stuff. It's probably a good side. But yeah, I think just more or less a new challenge, really, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, and it's good to see other people getting on the bandwagon as well. See a few people posting up with old Sporterized 303s and that, which is cool. But I suppose as long as you look after your eardrums and you're not dislocating your shoulder too much by firing the bloody things, then you're probably going all right. So no, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, you touched on the sort of long range stuff and also military. Which came first, the military for you or the long range stuff, or did they come about at the same time?
The military side was obviously from a younger. Yeah, I was always into the military. I think I was always wanted to be a soldier. Always wanted to be in the infantry, which I did. Joined the army when I was 19. I joined the army as a rifleman, and then went into went into recon, which is just another aspect of the infantry, so sort of the sneaky stuff. The long range shooting was, I always sort of had it because we were recon and snipers, so there were two detachments between the two support companies, the company that I was in, and then so there was a big there's actually a big rivalry between recon and snipers, and who it was pretty much just a boys club, and so who could outdo the other one, and so I was actually quite against long range shooting for that reason. I thought the snipers were pussies, and they thought that we probably thought the same of us. So for a while, I was quite against it. I was sort of very staunch in recon, but being friends with the guys at the same time was more or less just into unit banter. I think it was probably not until after I left the army that I started enjoying the long range stuff. But just with the 300 wisdoms and the 270 for there for a bit. And obviously just 308s with your the army, sort of the snipers in the army at the time had the L96A1, which was that was a standard service rifle, so that was the 7.62. It was 308 by hunting caliber. So that was what they used. I think they've got different things now, the 338s and the Barretts, but sort of, I don't know. I think going away from hunting for a while, I've sort of taken, I've sort of gone towards more the short range stuff. So I think the long range is sort of, I still enjoy it, but obviously it's an expensive operation, and I don't know. I'm not nothing against anyone who does long range shooting. I think it's awesome. I love watching guys, posting stuff on Instagram. I always stop and watch a video of someone smacking a deer over at at long distances. I think it's awesome. I think just personally, just more trying something new. I think it's more for me. But
you're saying about recon and sniper. We had Brady Cervantes, who's a sniper from the US Marines, and he's big on that as a team, like you said, into unit banter. But he was talking about getting I think it was 308 out to 1,600 yards, and I don't know how he does it, but that's a big drop and a big calculation and a lot of factors into hit something out that far is pretty incredible.
Oh, mate, I think those, some of this, it's actually quite cool what the snipers learn. Like, you can actually, I can't remember what it's called, but you put some sort of, you calculate something, and it's to do with the turning of the earth at long range. So, there's something effect. It's learning stuff like that, and obviously your windage direction. Like they do a pretty thorough course, the old New Zealand snipers. Like they do, obviously a lot of stalking, got judging distances. So you'll pick a point out in the distance, and you'll look at your map and look at it, and then you have to get within a certain amount of, you get your range within a certain amount to pass. So you'd have to be within 50 meters, and say if it's out 2Ks, you'd have to get within, a certain amount to actually pass that test. And like I said, your stalking, your observation. So they'll put a whole lot of items out there and at a distance on a range or something, and they'll hide them. So you'd only see the end of an old sty, or might see the top of a water bottle, at a distance, and you've got your binoculars and your spotting scope, and you got to identify what it is by just seeing the top of it. So they do a lot of it's definitely a hard trade to get into, but I think it's very cool. It's very cool. I give them a lot of stick, but I've got a lot of mates in there and that, but I do actually get a bit jealous about it sometimes. I've been too proud to have a crack, but yeah.
And so where did the recon stuff fit in? What did you do in your training?
So recon was in the New Zealand infantry, you have you got your two battalions. You got one based in Linton, which is one battalion, and you got your other battalion based down in Burnham, which is second first. So they're your two regular force infantry battalions, and then they're made up of 3 companies. So obviously, I think my battalion, you had Alpha Company, Victor Company, and Whiskey Company. So they're made up of obviously 3 platoons, and you break down into sections in there. And then on top of those 3 companies, there's a support company. So in support company, you'll have I think they were FSG, so fire support group. So they are your heavy weapons. So they're your big machine guns, your 50 calibers, your Mag 58s at the time. I think everything. I've been out about 6 or 7 years. It's still changed, but yeah. So that'd have your javelins and your 84 mil Carl Gustav, which is an anti-armor weapon. So that's FSG. Then you'll have your signals. So that's all your communications, so your satellite radios and they set up all that stuff. And then recon and snipers. So in recon you have 3 detachments, called dets, made up about 5-man teams. So you'll have in the team you'll have a scout, a commander, a machine gunner, a SIG, and then a 2IC, and then maybe another attached person. So it's a 5-man, and you're pretty much the role of it is to go forward as a kind of a pathfinder force. You'll do things like report on enemy movements, give sit reps back to the attacking force or back to the rifle company so that their commanders can put together a battlefield picture for some sort of assault. So you'll be reporting on, personnel inside a camp or, down a road. You'll be seeing supply lines. You'll be reporting surgeons or something like that. So that was predominantly a training thing. Like the thing about that is they don't deploy New Zealand recon as recon. So you don't actually go overseas to do those sorts of tasks at the moment. With Afghanistan and Iraq. So I didn't in my time I didn't deploy to those places. I think they were Afghanistan was sort of closing down a bit when I was in, and then as soon as I left, I think Iraq started up. But which was a bit of a shame. But doing the training was pretty cool at the time. But that's pretty much the easiest way. Pretty much the other way is the sneaky guys that walk around in the bush with face paint on. Is the easy way to bring it. Yeah.
And so was that part of why you left, but because there was no sort of action?
Yeah, definitely. That was probably the main reason I left. So I joined. I don't know. I like to think. Yeah. Well, so I joined up obviously because I wanted to go overseas. Well, my dad, he was a cop for 30 odd years, and he went to Bamiyan province in Afghanistan in 2006 as a part of a
military
training.
cop, or he was
no, just a normal cop. Yeah, so he went over there and trained the Afghan National Police. And I think I was about 16 at the time, so I was dead set I wanted to go. Like I was like, my dad's gone, my dad's my hero. I want to go too. And then so I sort of went into the army, very prematurely. Like I should have. Because my mum, I was a big mother's boy. My mum wanted me to do a building apprenticeship before I did anything, before I wanted to join the army. And then about that time was when the big recession hit and a lot of builders were getting laid off. So I went and lied to my mum. So if she's listening, this is the true story. Lied to her and said that I was fired. And then I went off and said, look, the only job security I can get at the moment is the army. I might as well go and join it. And she's just like, yeah, okay, fine. Yep. So I went into that and then joined in, and then so I hung around for 6 years, and then the deployments had kind of, they were going like East Timor had shut down, like they were slowly phasing East Timor down. Afghanistan was slowing down, and they were sending less and less people, and then because it's obviously a rotation between units. So that I think as I got in, the unit that I was put in, or the company that I was put into, had just come back. So they'd just come back. So and then you think about there's 6 other companies, and then they do 6-month deployments. It's a good few years before, and then by the end of it, by the time it came around again, New Zealand had pulled out of Afghanistan. So so that was a huge reason for me to leave. I just became bored. I think I got really over training. I think that was for a lot of guys you're just sick of running around doing training exercises, and then it kind of sort of loses its edge. It's cool when you're 19 running around and blowing up claymores and firing machine guns and stuff. As you sort of get a bit older, you start looking at this is really doing this training day in day out for something. Doesn't really want to make you hang around. There's nothing really to work for, I think. So that was the reason I got out.
Right. For everybody watching the YouTube, this will be confusing. I'm wearing something different. Dave, you've taken your top off.
Of course, it's all pointless for people who listen. Good on you, listen.
Yeah, bro.
But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to see David with his shirt off, head over to YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. It's about 20 odd degrees out there, so I thought I might actually chuck a shirt on just for me.
Yeah.
Just be a bit more censored, I think.
Yeah, that's all good. There's
Chucking your
plenty,
Vanator one on.
there's plenty of we'll get to that. There's plenty of early podcasts of myself. That summer we started. Geez, she was warm, and Alex was pregnant, and thank goodness we put a heat pump into our place, and turned the aircon on. There he is, Vanator news t-shirts.
Yeah,
available
mate.
yet there, Dave?
Slowly, man. They will be. I'm trying to get them done this weekend, but obviously, being a rookie businessman, it's taken a bit of a while to get the bloody website and all the PayPal set up. So hopefully this week they'll be out there and ready to go. But send one out soon, mate.
That's about like me with my caps. I've got them ready to go, but I think you find in business that you need some cash flow, and I'm thinking about doing some pre-orders, but again, then it involves going onto a website and setting up that sort of stuff. I'm sure it's just a matter of doing it. But those people that enjoyed the cap design, designed by a mate of mine, Sam Potts, who did an awesome job. They're ready to go. I've just got to try organise it so we can do a run.
Yeah, man, it's definitely it's hard. Like being introduced into that business world is there's so much to it. It's like the underlying bloody, sorting out every spine of detail of getting stuff designed and getting it sent out and getting it ordered, and it's definitely not easy. Not what I expected. It's just hard.
Yeah. I guess that's why everyone doesn't do it.
Yeah,
if it was easy, we'd all be doing it.
Yeah, that's you're definitely right there, mate. It's I was actually quite the awesome side of some of these businesses. Like I was listening to your podcast with Cam Mackay, and how he was just I spat my coffee out at one point when he said, I rang up Ryan Callahan and I said, look, mate, I'll bring your gears over and I'll sell them in New Zealand. I was just like, I think if I rang Ryan Callahan, I'd sound like a drowning magpie. I'd be that anxious. I was like, that is awesome. That is like insane. And just how casually he said it. And then I'm so excited for for all those online businesses like. With Mike McCormick and Chase and Gather, I think what he's doing is awesome, and I can't wait to see what turns up, what he has in store, and and Point South. I think it's exciting for them with the whole media to take over. I'm genuinely excited to see what comes of it, and it's great. These online, I think Jess Wright, she's got Huntress. She's just started Huntress Clothing with selling those leggings, fleece leggings. I think it's really cool. Yeah. And Jess, just Montepet with the Peak Performance. She's done.
She's just had a baby.
Just had a baby. I actually wanted to give her a message and ask for some advice, but I think I'll.
She might be a bit busy. Maybe wait 2 years.
I'll give it a while, but it's crazy, man. Like the New Zealand hunting community is absolutely, is awesome, and I think there's some amazing people a part of it, and it's, I suppose the plus side to starting Vanator is definitely being able to, to talk to people like yourself, and people that I'd follow like Caden Willis and Lee Murray and just being able to have a conversation with these guys that I used to follow and admire on a personal page, and Ash Strange, I was actually, I'm sort of getting a bit with the female, with the woman hunters too, like they're amazing.
They're keen.
Like they're awesome woman, and I just read something on Ash's page, and I think I would like to, bring it up while I've seen it is. Some of the abuse that these girls are getting, like from people, and I think it's pretty sickening, man. Like, I'm not I think my personal opinion too is like a lot of ignorance with it. A lot of these guys are like, will say these pretty horrible things without actually understanding, you know, the ethics of New Zealand hunting. With, you know, like if you've seen what a wild boar can do to a lamb, you know, you're gonna hate the wild boar because, you know, I guess not. So, or you know, how going to the, you know, what Cam touched on in the other podcast about, you know, the ethical side of New Zealand hunting with, you know, not bombing up shanty families and not shooting, you know, pregnant hinds, or avoiding, you know, picking your stags and what you're shooting. And I think New Zealand does a really good job of that in a hunting perspective as opposed to other countries. So I think that is disappointing to see stuff like that, especially when comments are made by guys that are very ruthless comments. And I think it's pretty sickening. And yeah, I feel for those females, or the women hunters who, yeah, I admire and respect. So
Was that Ash? She was on they 7 Sharp did a thing with her. Was that her?
Nah, Ash. She hunts too. She's got that page. So
yeah,
Ash is. I think. Yeah, Lucy J. I think. Lucy
That's
J
the one. Yeah. She's someone else.
I'd take my hat off to her. Like I think she did an awesome job. Like you know, it's not easy going up in the media and stuff, and I think she handled herself really well. Like, it's quite funny to me because I looked at her following and a few weeks ago before the interview, and it was at like 7,000, like big following. You have a look now; it's up like 20,000 people. Like people have really gotten behind it, which is awesome. So I think shout out to her; she's done amazing.
Yeah, as they say, any publicity is good publicity, really.
Yeah, that's it, bro. That is it. Like she's quite funny too. I think she asked her, like, you know, you seem to hunt with not a lot of clothes on. And she's just like, I'm just hot, like.
Well, she said I was having a laugh or something. Or...
Yeah, just for a laugh. I was just like, oh, you know, like how casual and how awesome, you know, good on her, I reckon.
Yeah, and I saw somebody else they were stoked that they'd got their first vegan hate. And then somebody else commented on, I get death threats, so I win.
Yeah, mate. Crazy, mate. Because I've had it. I've spent this last week blocked off Instagram and I thought my content wasn't, you know, this isn't that bad, really. Like, you know, you sort of see some photos of, you know, guys gutting animals and stuff, and kind of, you know, that's allowed to be posted. And then I think I was reported by, you know, some vegan. So yeah, it's definitely there. But I suppose it's just I respect where a lot of vegans come from, and I think the vegans that do respect, you know, us as hunters, you know, hats off to them. I think that's good. But yeah, there's obviously the extreme side of both. I suppose there's the extreme side of hunting and the extreme side of veganism, I guess. And then so I don't know, take it as it comes, I suppose.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was raised on the Joe Rogan and Chris Kresser debunking of Game Changers, was that, like, actually when you get, and that's the same with Jesus from The Educated Hunter, Matt Gibson. That's what he was saying. Is like, actually, if you go to a party and you want to be provocative and sit beside a vegan, you'll find that actually we have a massive conversation and leave you guys to it, because fundamentally we're coming from the same place. So we want you know, food that's nutritious, food that's like gives you a massive boost and has got no bullshit in it. And like, I just smashed back the last of my leftover Seeker. I've got some back straps and that's it. So I need to get out on the hill, and I've got those 2 bunnies in the slow cooker right now. But yeah, it's like, man, this is awesome. It's from the land. It's running free. It's living its best life, eating the best food, and then when you eat it, it's just a different level. Like, it gives you a high and that stuff. And then like the provenance and the story behind it, you can, you know, say what you did. You can have a laugh at the stuff ups you did. Like last night, I lost all my arrows.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Well, I can't say much. I actually have a bit of banter with Caden Willis about bow hunting. I was giving a bit of shit about it, and he gives it back. But obviously, the early days of Vanator, I wasn't having much luck with the old 303, so he let me know about it, and I sort of gave him stick about being an amazing bow hunter that he is.
Well, that's a good thing about Caden. You know, he was happy for the Hunters Club to put him smacking himself in the face on the D-loop that he tied. So You know, there's no skin off his nose for a bit of banter with Caden, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, he's good, good bloke. Okay,
Yeah.
love him in the animal.
Yeah,
But
mate.
yeah, so yeah, but I don't know, like going back to what you're saying about the hunting, with having obviously free range animals and stuff, like it's always something like that sense of obviously there's eating that free range meat, I feel is way more ethical than obviously eating the stuff that you find in supermarkets, man. But the sense of actually sense of achievement when you like, getting that animal as well, eating what you've put the hard work into is probably makes it a lot, definitely that sense of satisfaction, I think.
Yeah, mate. Well, that's like those rabbits. Like, man, it took me 3 shots to get one, and that was just because I didn't have a rangefinder, so I was underranging them. I saw that they were 20, which is what I've been practicing at, and directly at 30, and then to get it, I was like, holy shit, I did it. And so I've had that bow since September. So what's that? That's been 2 months. I'm in my backyard most days, shooting 20 yards, and just continually getting smaller and smaller and more in line. And then now the ones I missed was again just was a matter of range. I think not knowing exactly where I was aiming for. So yeah, I've got a wish list that's the size of the wall, but rangefinder might have crept up to the top of the list.
Bro.
But
because I've seen it, man. I've seen you shooting on your story, shooting the old milk bottle, bro. It looks looking pretty slick, eh? It's awesome. It's good stuff.
The cocoa box. Yeah, that was the job. Could you hit it? Milk bottle. So I didn't have a milk bottle, so I had a Mrs. had done some baking or something, and there was a box of cocoa with a big red label on it. So I was like, oh yeah, we'll try hit the red on this cocoa box.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, man. That was when I was like, right, I can do this. I can go get a rabbit.
Yeah, bro.
Got 2.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Because how did you get into bow hunting? Like, did you just sort of see it like, oh, bugger it, I'll give it a crack, like, or sick of shooting, or like,
so obviously I'm like new to hunting, and in terms of wild, truly wild, in an open place, I haven't been successful there yet. And I think that's really down to just infrequency, not being out in an area long enough and frequent enough to really understand what I'm doing. So it's just been a bunch of little bits here and there. Like I was still playing rugby when I got my rifle, and then obviously now I've got a little girl, and so it's just picking my opportunities to get out there and do it, and making plenty of mistakes and doing a lot of things right at the same time. So there's just sort of that, and then so I've managed to get a couple of animals on the back of farms, which has been good, but I just actually do love the hunting side of it. And then so with bow hunting, being an Aussie, I was connected up with a lot of guys on Aussie, which obviously most of them sling a bow because trying to get a firearm over there is just so hard. And them being a pretty big religious follower of Joe Rogan and follow campaigns, and I was just watching Adam Greentree's latest expedition, and like Kimmy, she got an incredible stalk on some tahr that he's just showed up. They were like in 10 meters surrounded by these bulls. It's so wicked. So yeah, go check out Adam's page or Cam Henderson's page. He was doing the video, and I said to Adam Greentree, I was like, you have to get Cam a phone scope for Christmas, because he's lighting up the cell phone through the spotting scope.
Oh, that's good effort, eh? Good effort. Yeah.
And you back to Cam Mackay. I noticed that Kimmy upgraded her Stony Creek puffer for I think it must have been Cam's Point South puffer.
Yeah, man. It's
but bow hunting. It was just like one of those things that like we sold our house in September, and I was like, right, now's a good time to get one. And then for me, like I'm definitely not throwing away the rifles. But it just means that I can practice every day, and like I've got a trigger release at the moment. It's just about being there, like steady to the shot, getting the surprise shot, being balanced, being calm, being steady, and then I think that's going to translate into rifle hunting, as well. Like I've got 7mm ring mag with massive ambitions to hunt South Island, but to be honest, I've been there once. I know twice since I got the thing, and yeah, it's only been let off twice down there. Once we had a go at some tar, and me and my mate were both like brand new to our rifles, and we aimed high instead of low because it was on 30 degree, and then we shot at some rocks to figure it out, and that's all it's really done down there. So there's a lot on my list of things to do, like tar, chamois, wapiti, even a red seki. I'm at the start, that's for sure.
That's it, bro. That's I reckon just it's cool it's always cool to hear guys that just get into hunting as well, like who haven't. Obviously, I grew up with it, but then I had the big break of moving to Australia for 3 years, and then coming back into it recently. So like, it's cool definitely cool, and especially something like bow hunting is just such a it's a cool sport. Like it's cool to watch, and it's cool to it's cool to be able to do it. Obviously, I'll be the first one, but I couldn't hit the side of a bloody barn with a bow. So probably something I'd be keen to get into in the future. And I think of that, that's part of the reason too I grabbed those iron sight 303s, is that sense of different kind of challenge with and I'm the same, bro. Like I would love to put away a wapiti with a 303, or do it like go back to the deer color days with that sort of sense and have that new challenge. But no, I'm not head off to you, bro. I think it's awesome to hear guys getting into hunting. Yeah.
And so, what were you up to yesterday? Like that was one of the advantages of us being cut short, is that I got to see another day in the life of Davey. And what were you boys up? What were you boys up to yesterday in the sand dunes?
Actually shout that guy out. So he's Fitzy. I can't say his full name because he's actually serving in the Special Forces. But he runs a business called Warfighter Athletic. So it's there's a big following. He runs a lot of training plans for guys going into the looking at going into the armed forces. So if anyone is listening that's keen to go into the military and that, check out Warfighter Athletic and check out some of his training plans. Obviously does a lot of apparel, but he's a really good mate of mine. He's been really good sort of business mentor, like helping me set up the page and putting me on the right track with different people to work with, like guys like Jimmy Flynn, Zero Alpha Designs did my logo and all that, and a lot of the design work. So yesterday we were pretty much just doing a bit of a shoot. So you can tell he's very special forces because of the way he was shooting that bloody Mark IV. It's quite cool. But yeah, we're just doing a bit of promoting over the t-shirts, really. Just to run and try something a bit different. Obviously, it's we don't have much to work with, very low budgeted marketing, I think. So running around the beach with 303s is probably all I can really afford at the moment. So like get tax deductible on the ammunition or something, but yeah, that's it, mate. But yeah, I think with the branding too, like the reason obviously I made the Flannelette Hunter was to still, because I obviously want Vanator to turn into a brand, but I still obviously with the mental health sort of campaign a few weeks ago, and I had a lot of guys messaging me, obviously DMs and talking about their own, which was awesome, which was that was what I was aiming for. So I'm glad. I was very careful of how I marketed that, because I didn't want it to seem like a marketing campaign for Vanator. I wanted it to be a full mental health, get guys speaking up, which they did. So obviously I had a lot of guys DMing Vanator, and so I was worried that if Vanator was going to grow and then guys would see it, that they couldn't say anything. They still couldn't talk to me directly. So Flannelette Hunter was there. So I made a separate page for guys to still be able to talk. I think it's been awesome. It's been really good to hear, and especially I'm not going to name anyone. I'm not going to name it for their own sort of reasons. But just some people, some certain people who have spoken up and been really supportive of it has been really awesome. So the branding, obviously Vanator turning into a brand, and with the marketing of people, I really like to showcase the people that have helped me. So hence having Fitzy in there yesterday, he's had a massive part of bringing a couple of other people as I go, doing some awesome stuff with the t-shirts and just with the brand. But yeah, it's a very Vanator's a very community-based brand. I'm happy for everyone to be a part of it. I enjoy it when people tag me in their stories and, you know, seeing what they're up to and whether they're training or whether they're hunting or, you know, whether they're doing just shooting or anything like that. So it's been really, I'm really enjoying it. So that's probably the good, good
side of it.
the best part about it, I suppose.
Yeah. And while we're on the mental health sort of thing, you're on that other podcast, the Correro with was it Nat?
Yeah, Nate. Yeah.
And you sort of went through your own mental health challenges with when you went to Australia and sort of you know, finding yourself and with various relationships and traveling and all that sort of stuff. Looking back with retrospect, and that's where we left off yesterday, was, you know, reasons for getting out of the military. Was a little bit of that starting to creep in there, sort of a lack of purpose or a lack of, you know, why am I doing these things when I'm not, you know, this doesn't seem to be any point to all this. Do you think there was a little bit of that starting then?
Yeah, but I think it was very I don't know. I think it was I'd say it was starting then. It was very unidentified then. Early days, you don't. But I think because when I so what had happened? I'd gone to the military. I was so I was looking at leaving, and then I was obviously wanted to join the police because my dad was a cop, and that. So I got out and I actually took a year's leave without pay, and then I went to apply for the police, and then I failed the maths. So I was always all right at maths, but they said, "Look, mate, you come back in 12 months," and I was like, "Wow, I've just had a year off, so I've taken a year off from the army. I don't know what I'm going to do now." And then, but then, funnily enough, later down that year, I actually got done for drink driving, so I couldn't join the police ever again anyway. So that was the end of that saga. But then I was watching a lot of. I was at home and I was watching a lot of you know, Gold Rush and a lot of mining sort of programs on Discovery. And I contacted my mate who was he was in the army, but he was working in the mining in Australia. And at the time, like, there's a big downturn. So obviously the boom days had gone. He sort of said, you know, it's like, bro, there's no work over here. I can't get you a job. It's like, you should do something in New Zealand. And then I was like, well, okay. And then so I looked up drilling because that's what he was doing. And I was like, okay, well, I might go do some sort of training with this. So I looked up a course, and there's a course down in Reefton. Yeah. Well, there was. I don't think it's there. Taipotini Polytech. I'm not too sure if it's still there or not, but it was about $8,000 to do the course. And then I went, and so I was like, bugger, I'm going to pay $8,000. I might as well go talk to a drilling company and see if it's actually worthwhile. So I Googled drilling companies in Wellington, and this company Webster Drilling turned up, and I was like, right, I'll go have a yarn to these guys and see what they think of that course. And I rocked in there, walked into the workshop, walked up to this old bloke, this old mechanic. His name's Murray. And like, hey, mate, who do I talk to about the drilling course? And then he's like, hey, you want to talk to that guy over there? And points me in the direction of probably one of the scariest looking dudes I've ever seen in my life. Like, this is coming out of the army as well. So I was like, there's not too many people that look very scary. But this guy was just this big, old, hearing aids. You know, he just, larger than life sort of bloke. And I walked up to him, sort of like half shaking. Like, you know, mate, how you going? Looking at doing this bloody drilling course down in Reefton. What do you reckon? He's just like, well, you know, staunch voice. He's like, well, what do you got for me? I was like, what do you mean, mate? He's like, well, sell yourself. Like, what? He's like, well, you know, what do you do? I was like, I've just come out of the army. He's like, can you, you know, you got any sort of mechanical background or anything like that? I was like, mate, I can't even drive a manual. Like, nah. I was just like, oh, no, nah. He's just like, right, well, bugger that course off. You can start with us on Monday. I was like, oh, right. So I started, that was the start of my drilling career. And I stuck with them. I'm actually back with them now. Really good company, Webster Drilling, based out of Wellington. And then from there, learnt my trade for 2 years, went back to the army and left. So because I had the year off, so I was drilling in that time. And then I went back and then decided I wanted to carry on with it. So went back to the army, got out fully, and went back to drilling. and then went over to Australia. And I think I have to say the depression side of it was more in Australia. I think is when it sort of turned quite bad, because you got the job in mining. It's 2 and 1, so 2 weeks on, 1 week off. So and the 2 weeks you're out there is 12-hour days. 40-odd degree heat. Like you sort of, I remember being in open cast mining, so it's in an iron ore mine. So you're sort of sitting, you think about an open cast mine, it's like being in a bloody frying pan when it's like 40 degrees.
There's iron everywhere.
Oh man, it's honestly like sometimes I was like, I remember pulling up and getting out of the truck, and not being able to breathe. Like the heat was actually bad, because you got like hard hats with big brims on them. And I remember getting out of the truck and then the heat hitting the rocks and then bouncing back up in your face. Like it was just so hard to breathe. And I remember turning around to a couple of guys I was working with, and I realising the fact, I was like, boys, we're the only people out here. There's no animals out here. Like, we're the only idiots doing this job. Like, this is just ridiculous. Because everyone else in the mine, they work in, if you work in a dump truck or a loader or something like that, it's an air-conditioned camp. You spend your whole time in there, or you work in an office or something like that. We're the only idiots out here in this heat. And then, which is, it's definitely not good for you. Like, it's standing in that heat for how many hours a day, you're constantly drinking water. Dehydration is rife. Like you'll sink like a litre of water and it'll be sweated out of you in half an hour. And so I think a lot of that isn't very healthy for your brain. I think there's a lot of guys dealing with mental health issues in that mining, and plus on top of being away from things like families and which I can't relate to. I don't have a family, but that side of things is very, mining is very depression rife, I think. So I think my battle started in there, and then it sort of spiraled. But mind you, I was a lot of drinking. A lot of drinking was probably just part of that culture, is drinking.
Yeah,
it's very. I would say, plays a massive part in it, and I think, and not the help. There's not the. Mental health is hard. Actually, because we had a guy from WorkSafe coming to work on Friday, and he was talking about mental health, and he was saying how, like, and one of the supervisors brought up a very, very valid point, and like you say, if someone cuts their leg in the workplace, how do you know what to do? You go up to give them first aid, you put a bandage on them, you do that. But how do you fix something that's in someone's head? How do you get someone, to how do you help someone with that? And everyone being wired so differently, it's so hard to. Mental health is so hard to, sort for a lot of. Well, I don't know what the word for it. To combat. It's so hard in that sense, because there's so many different factors to it. So and it's hard to, obviously, relating to people. I spoke to, having a chat to Fitzy about it yesterday. Like, how does, say a soldier coming back from Afghanistan with PTSD goes and talks to a therapist who has never left her office. Like, how is she supposed to relate to that? I think that's why mental health is really hard to combat. So so with me, I did find it hard to talking to people and trying to relate them, getting them to relate to me and what I was going through. Because obviously I'm wired different to you or to anyone. So I think, and that's, the mining was hard. Plus being away from the family, being away from hunting, not having a lot else to do other than go out drinking and stuff. It was definitely the mining, I think, was the was the main cause. Plus being I was in a relationship that wasn't the best. No fault of either. It was just a relationship. No fault of hers or mine or anything. We weren't very, because of being away and stuff. It didn't help. But mining. So it's something that's part of the cool thing about the Vanator and the mental health thing as well, is that obviously of sort of trying something, when a guy comes to me and says, hey man, I've been through this, and I can say to them, hey man, I've never experienced it. You know, I'm just going to my battle. But you know, old mate 2 weeks ago messaged me saying the same thing. You should talk to this guy who's going through the same thing as you. So you know, trying to relate to people is I think would help. But you know, who knows?
Yeah, and it's interesting, like you say about the drinking too much. And there was definitely one of my issues through uni. It was like working hard at uni and just like needing an escape. And again, a bit like yourself, in relationships, they're just, you know, probably incompatible and wrong time of life. My partner and I were talking 2 nights ago, or whatever. You know, what would you do if you knew what you knew now and you could be 18 again? And I basically said I wouldn't be chasing relationships, that's for sure. Because you know, it's just as a young bloke, you think you know everything and you think you're bulletproof, but really you know nothing, and your decision making is bloody terrible. And especially when you throw a lack of sleep in the mix and too much alcohol in the mix and a lot of pressure and stress of, you know, like for me, optometry was something that I wanted to do my whole life, and you know, and I've written about it, how, you know, being hugely passionate about it, yet I get through these tests and get, you know, B's and stuff, and just like feel mediocre all the time. But which
but I was actually going to ask you that, like, like being an optometrist, man, it's like how do you stumble across that? Like, what's the story?
I saw my brother get tested when he was like 12, or when I was 12, and I was just like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And like people say that to me all the time. Like these people go, well, why weren't you a doctor? I was like, oh, that doesn't appeal to me. And like even as an optometrist, I'm kind of a bit split between, you know, helping people and doing something that's significant and doing something I'll work my life towards, and then at the same time just being like, man, I'm stuck in the dark room all day. I'm, you know, reliant on being here for these appointments. And it's like, man, I just want to, you know, you get that little bit of into the wild feelings of just, man, I just want to throw it all in and just go bush.
Man.
Yeah. But like with the mining, you know, you said you're there for 2 weeks. It's stinking hot. You just want to be in air conditioning all the time, and so obviously you're like living in a prefab. You know, you've done 12 hours work, but then was it the case of like you get back to the prefab, there's nothing to do, you should go to sleep, but because you're bored, you just stay awake and do nothing, and then you don't sleep, then you drink, then you're depressed, then just
bro. It's like it's obviously you're exhausted throughout the day, you're dehydrated, and then it doesn't help when you come back to camp and you start cracking a beer and making it worse, and then you know, I think most nights you'd be having beers after work. Obviously, you couldn't have too many because, you know, you'd have the breatho the next morning. But yeah, like it's just a very so it's like 2 weeks of hard slog, and then you have a week to recover, and you don't really recover, I don't think, and especially if you go, like, because I mean, I used to do trips to Bali and stuff, and just get absolutely written off with my mates, and then go back to work. So you know, the vicious cycle with no recovery is a huge part of that, I think. But yeah, it's not a healthy lifestyle. Like a lot of people still talk to me about, you know, wanting a job over there, and I always, you know, I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, it's good money. You do save money, but you got to be really. I don't recommend the healthiness of the lifestyle, to be honest.
And we had Adam Kevin on here, speaking of that into the wild lifestyle. You know, he got thyroid disease and stuff. He's still battling to maintain it. He's doing well that he doesn't take any medications, but yeah, like that's significant amount of his life. But on the flip side, it's meant he's been able to travel around Australia and go hang out with the guys in Arnhem Land for 3 years now, and you know. But he definitely would reiterate what you said there. It takes its toll, and you know, you definitely see it. And do you think that's like kind of the opposite to being in Linton, where, you know, you're with people with a common goal of being the best of the best, as opposed to being with some guys that are just there for the sake of the money?
I don't know. I think like there, you know, obviously there were some soldiers that were there that were like trying to be the best of the best, but majority of the guys didn't want to be there anyway. Like,
oh shit.
Yeah. Sort of the army was just another job too. Like, I mean, I shouldn't really say that. There's some, you know, majority of the guys that there are pretty good. there's still a big drinking culture within the army as well. Like, you know, it's a very, but I suppose you get it's a lot more relaxing than mining. You know, you still get a barracks, all your mates around you. You know, you got Palmerston North right there. You've, you know, probably a lot more freedom than being in a. I mean, being in a mine camp is sort of more or less like, well, it's being in a very, very nice prison. I guess you can't really, you know, they are, you know, the barracks. Well, the dongers, you call them, are very on suites and digital TV, and they're nice. And then you got your gym and your bar, and some of them have swimming pools, and some of the big mining camps are very quite nice. Like you got a lot of, you know, might have a couple of gyms, and I think one of them was what was it called? Yandy. Yeah, Yandy. Massive. It was a big Rio, because Rio Tinto were the client, big mining giant. I think half of Rio Tinto is owned by the Queen. I don't know how truth is that, but truth is in that. But yeah, there's some, that camp was nice. 2 gyms, really nice mess, and food was awesome. Had all sorts of stuff going on. Like, you could go at night, go down and have a swim and pool at night. You could go to a yoga session after work. You could do all sorts of stuff. It was quite cool. But then you'd go, and that was like, so you'd spend a bit of time in there, but then you do a rig move to move the rig, and then you'd be out in the caravan with absolutely nothing. So sitting on fire and not filling your thumbs. So you sort of go to one extreme to the other very quickly. So, yeah, like Linton was it's I think Linton's the biggest army camp in the country.
Yeah,
there's the most units there, I think. So you got one infantry battalion there. You've got 16th Field Regiment, so the artillery, the 2 engineer regiment, so the engineers are there, and plus the logistics and stuff. So it's a big camp, a fair few units in there. Signal Squadron. But it's like this, you know, the rivalry, the sport. I think I played my last game of rugby in the army. I played for the infantry against the engineers. I think I walked off the field, and I think it was one of those cases where, yeah, it's time to retire at the ripe age of 24 because everything hurts. My knees hurt. Like, what is going on here? Like, oh yeah. So that was it was the last game of rugby I played 6 odd years ago. So, but yeah, the stuff like that. Yeah, cool. Into sport, into regimental sport and stuff was quite cool. Yeah, I don't know, the big difference. But I think definitely I'd rather Linton than mining, I think.
Yeah.
But I suppose the money's a big factor in that.
Yeah. When you say that, like, you know, there's still this big drinking culture even within the likes of the military in New Zealand. Do you think that speaks to us as blokes within New Zealand? You know, obviously there's women in the army as well, and not to put them to the side, but societally we're still, you know, and I go to the Deerstalk Association, and there's plenty of beers cracked there as well. You know, and it's almost, and like, you know, that's what you're trying to get with Vanator as a brand, to actually, you know, guys, let's cut the crap and tell us actually how you're feeling about this. And like, do you think that even in the place like the army where things are hard, you're in a pressure cooker, and our immediate response is just to escape it, whether that's getting blasted or running away to some other place that's just, you know, if not worse than what you're in already.
But I remember, like, yeah, you're dead right. Like, I remember, you know, because we were paid as a private. You're paid, you know, bugger all. So about 90% of your money would go to on the piss, and then, like, you know, $50 would go to a really tight T-shirt that you could wear on the Saturday night to impress all the girls. But that was that was all it was. Like, we would spend our money, and then, you know, so you're paid fortnightly. So you'd get paid on the Thursday. You would blow all your money on Saturday night, and then you'd still have about a week to go until you got paid again. So you'd have maybe whoever had a couple of $100 left over would buy the box of beers, and then you'd be back out on the next weekend, skin broken. I think that is it is, you know, the whole. I think too with my depression as well. I found it really hard to, you know, because obviously I wanted to start a business and that, and I find it really hard to listen to people like Tony Robbins, and, you know, some people thrive off business owners, like thrive off the Gary Vee and the Tony Robbins says this, Gary Vee says this, all this sort of shit. Like, to be honest, I can't listen to any of that, but like, it doesn't inspire me. I'm just like, to me, they're just kind of words.
Yeah.
So I think, I look at guys like, bro, who's the guy that started Hunter's Element?
Yeah, I don't know his name either, but I did listen to him on The Educated Hunter, and it was pretty cool. I hope that the guys like Safari Supplies and Point South are putting some pressure on Hunter's Element to really, like, some of their designs, the latest design hoodie, I was pretty interested in that, but then I was a bit gutted with the material. Like, Cam put up the other day, who in New Zealand uses New Zealand merino, and I was like, does you and Sitka count? Because I was like, this the one thing that drives me nuts. And like the guys at Lake Hawaii Station, Grow Merino, putting up the first like video of merino being used in their products. It's like, why don't the guys in New Zealand use this? Like, man, like you just look at what's that merino brand in New Zealand?
Is it Icebreaker?
Yeah, man. Yeah, look at Icebreaker. It's like, why don't we have that in a hunting line? And like, Cam Henderson talking about Mons Royal, like using merino, and it's just like the best stuff on the hill. And it's like, man, we have the greatest product here, and like Possum, and far out. Let's use this stuff.
Yeah. Well, like.
But you come back to the founders of Hunter's Element,
bro. Like, because I read his like on the website, because I actually because I was an absolute idiot. Like, I didn't know. I was sort of listening to a few people making some stupid when I first wanted to start Vanator, because I wanted it to be an outdoor brand.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to start with a garment, and then I foolishly I looked at Hunter's Element, was one that they made years ago. It was like it was sort of like the bush shirt. It was one of the very, very first ones, and I actually emailed them saying I was under the alias of someone else, saying I was making shirts for work, and what material was this and all this. And they replied straight away and were like, "No, that's confidential." It was like, thanks, that didn't work. But, yeah, mate. I was like,
you can only ask.
So yeah, if Hunter's Element are looking at any Vanator gear coming out that looks like it's not, I didn't copy anything, so I've stuck to the rules. But but going to the motivational side, like reading his story, like how he started Hunter's Element, like running up and down the country selling garters.
Yeah.
That to me is, action, and I think I find that very inspiring, very motivational and Cam Mackay, like, just go back to, I still can't believe it, ringing up Ryan Callahan. Ryan Callahan, like this, the man, the myth, saying.
I think the advantage for Cam was that he'd done his time with ski gear, and he knew how like sales and supply and distribution and stuff sort of worked. But this was even what I said in the podcast. I was like, "You did what?"
But just how casually he did it too. He just like, I just rang up Ryan Callahan and pretty much said, "Look, mate, give me your gear. I'll sort it out for you." And all this, I was like, "What?" Like, bro, you are the man. You're an absolute legend. Like, I can't believe that. I'd love to talk to him and because to be honest, bro, I have no idea about any of that retail stuff. So, or running that business stuff either. Cam, if you're listening, bro, you give me a hand, because I have no idea what I'm doing.
I think he's pretty receptive through.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I suppose if you start blogging for him, you might have a conflict of interest. But
yeah, that's it, bro. But yeah, guys like him, I find really, that's inspiring, and just to do what he's doing with Point South. I think a lot of my mates give me a lot of shit, because I sort of I get really behind other brands. I'm like, yeah, man, like I was talking to Fitzy yesterday about like Jess and Jess Wright with Huntress Clothing, and because obviously down the track I'd like to do the same thing for women's wear, obviously make some sort of fleeced leggings and that. And I was like, bro, she's doing awesome. And he's just like, bro, you can't support your competition, man. You got your own brand to worry about. You get a bit carried away with like other brands and stuff. But I just love. I think I really enjoy seeing people doing, taking that step of business taking something they enjoy and then making something out of it. Like same with, like I was saying, with Mike McCormick with Chase and Gather. Like, I mean, that guy, not only being a physical weapon, that he is. You know, his, you know, the things he gets up to for hunting and how supportive he is to other hunters in terms of like how, you know, training and motivational sort of stuff. I think it's awesome. Plus, he's a really good bloke. Like just I've mentioned sometimes, like really good guy. So I'm really excited to see what he. I did message him saying I'll buy some of his teas and a cap. So looking forward to that.
That's I think is the awesome thing. And again, you know, I harp on about Joe Rogan all the time, but that's what he says is like, there's no need to have this famine mentality. Like, oh, there's not enough people to support me, and that's the problem I think with New Zealand is that we think because we're so small and because we're so isolated that there's only so much to go around, but actually like like Joseph Peter from Hard House Hunting, that's what he sort of says is, oh, you know, no one's paying me to wear anything, so I just go out there and buy the best gear. And I love that all these, you know, brands are trying to do the best they possibly can and make good gear, and if it's good I'll wear it and I'll buy it and go from there. And that's the thing, if we can foster this element of doing things great, and you know, like, you know, I've given the New Zealand brands a little bit of stick, but it's like hopefully it builds everything up, you know, that hey, there's me as a consumer that wants to go out there and buy top quality. And that's the thing about this podcast. You know, I was talking to someone today and saying, mate, you should come on the podcast. Said, oh no, I'm not very interested. Mate, you're interested in me, and that's all that matters. And I hope that this podcast is an example of, you know, young guys like you and me, like what we're passionate about, what we want.
Yeah,
you know, be an example for other people that, like, you know, even for myself, this podcast is as an example of living life less ordinary. And so it's a chance to prove to yourself that, hey, you know, my life might not be as perfect as I imagine right now, but you know, all it takes is a couple of steps in one direction, and things could be completely different. And you know, here's plenty of people out there doing it. And you know, that's why I said, you know, we got talking on Instagram. I was like, Nick, come on anytime, and you know, we'll finally sorted it out over 2 days. But
bro, to your credit, bro, to your credit, you've actually inspired me to run my own podcast, which I'll definitely get you on, bro. So I started the which I've even had a name for it. So it'll be a separate page. It'll be the Vanator Agenda. I've called it Vanator Agenda Podcast. So I'll definitely get you on there, and we'll do the same thing, bro. Because you're right, man. Like it's just because I've spoken to people too about doing podcasts as well. Like, would they do? And they're like, oh no, it's not really my thing. It's just like, you know, really go on there and just have a good conversation about stuff. Like, I think it's not much really to it, I think. And obviously there's like this, the last one too with Nate is like, obviously that was very, because she, with her business, she runs a wellness, like a mental health sort of thing. So that obviously I was pushing the mental health thing as well. So that sort of had more the topic of that, getting guys to, a part of promoting the mental health was that. So that was more, I was thinking of more of an interview opposed to a podcast, but it was good. And but I'm always up for having conversations about hunting, and I'll do it with anyone, even if someone that messages me on Instagram. We keen to talk to. So.
And what was your connection with Nate? Was it that CrossFit Games that you set up a stall at? Is that where you met?
No. So with Fitzy, Nate. Sorry, no, with Nate. Bro. Yeah, I met her at. Well, it's quite actually. No, this sounds quite bad, but I'll say it anyway. So I seen her. She was judging.
Yeah.
She was judging at nationals, and then she because I was obviously helping Fitzy with his warfighter stand at the CrossFit Nationals, and then I seen her there, and then I say this to her, I know it sounds bad, but that's exactly what it was. I seen her face come up on the in the bloody thing on Instagram, like the search thing, and you got the bloody all that thing, and then I seen, I was like, oh, that's that girl. So I followed her, and then seen she did some cool stuff and that, and then she messaged me, and she's just like, who are you? I was like, oh, like how do I explain this? And I was like, oh, I'm actually, I seen you at the Nationals, and she's just like, oh, so you're stalking me? I was like, no, I'm not. I'm definitely not stalking you. And then we got into a conversation, and then I got to know her a bit better, and she was all about. It was quite cool. I said, because she's very cheeky. when you talk to her. I don't think the podcast really reflects her personality. She's very cheeky.
Well, that was episode 2, right? So yeah, you know, you got.
Yeah, But I said to her, I was like, "You are actually really good at talking shit. You should do a podcast." And she did it. She set up a podcast. So, awesome there. I think she's doing a really good job, and she's enjoying it. So.
No, it's lots of fun, and like, you know, that was what I was about to say. With, you know, if you're about to start one, like I'm 100 and something episodes deep, early 100s, and you know, you can get caught up in the numbers, and you can compare yourself to the millions per second of Joe Rogan, but actually, you know, the fun is having that conversation, and it's a little trapdoor to talk to people, you know, like Cam or two Cams, Michael, you know, the other party, you know, it's been so good. And then like my other side, my passion for health and for men's health and stuff, you know, had Robert Dunn from November on, a couple of the guys from Everyman come and had a chat about, you know, thinking about your life a little bit differently as a bloke and becoming better. So yeah, I can see why Joe Rogan encourages everybody to do it, because I can imagine for him this must be just like 1,000-fold of that. Like, you know, he gets people who talk about physics and talk about, you know, religions and psychedelics and politics, and just lets his curiosity just bring on anybody he wants.
Yeah, man, it's Joe Rogan. I mean, yeah, absolute legend. Like, just weapon of a man. Can't get over that. Yeah, I think just that whole podcast, you know, with the Joe Rogan Experience is just such a massive.
It's a thing, eh?
It's just huge now. Like, it's crazy. Like, because is he? It's for free, eh? I had this debate with Fitzy yesterday.
Yeah,
it's free, isn't it? Yeah.
So if you've got an iPhone, like literally, I open up my iPhone and I've chucked it into my bottom bar, but it's like a purple logo and it looks like an eye. Funnily enough, and then 2 rings radiating around, like it's, you know, like a radio signal basically. It's purple tab, and literally click on that, search whoever you want, subscribe, and once you're subscribed, like I've just had Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon come up, Pete Evans, Kieran Krishnan, I haven't listened to that, Diet Doctor, David Unwin, Found My Fitness, Ron Patrick come up. Every time the guys at Educated Hunter do one, comes up. Hunting a Eat in Australia comes up. Paul Michaels comes up, and so yeah, I'm forever chasing to try clear my history of podcasts. So like I drive out to Waipokoro on a Friday, and that's when I get most of my listening. And Remy Warren's little 20-minute absolute gem. Have you got onto that one, man?
No.
Oh, no. Holy shit! They're like 20-minute podcasts, and he just talks. He's like giving away his secrets, basically. He talks about like this one was called bulldogging an elk, and so basically, if elk's got a bunch of calves and he's above you on the hill, he basically said like run after him and squeal and chase him, because he'll drive the cows over the hill. And he said as soon as you get to the saddle and are on top of him, then you just start screaming and sort of scream back and do some cow calls back and trick him to think that you've nicked one of his cows. And then he said that the bull will come back at you and try to catch his cow and have a scrap with you. And he said like rattle the bush and smash it and stuff. And he said it like has worked more times than not. But he said you've like, and it goes back to Vanator about being, and you know, Michael McCormack being fit for the hunt. He said, you know, you've got to blitz it up the hill to try to chase it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man.
Hill, but, yeah. Talk to us about you're prepared to hunt, man.
Yeah, bro. So I wanted to, you know, it all started, man, was just honestly a way of getting over my, you know, it was just something to do, like having with depression. Like it was obviously really bad, and I couldn't. So I'd come home, obviously, and then I had obviously a lot of money that I'd saved from mining, and then I wasn't too sure what I was going to do. Whether the most people like, I'll buy a house. I'll buy a house, and but then I was like, if I buy a house, I'm not going to be happy. Like I have to do something about this. Like actually, and my parents, and so I sat down with my parents and said, look, like, if I'm going to get over this, I need to do something. Like, I can't just buy a house and sit around and expect, you know, my life to sort of fix itself. So we talked about it, and I was like, well, you know, why don't I throw the money into a business or something like that, invest it into something else. So I knew that obviously the hunting was a good passion of mine. So I went back to focusing on, you know, guys, I talked to guys struggling with depression or something. So going back before everything fell to shit, just go to back, focus on the things that you enjoyed. Like, so, and then just try, because you might not get it at first. Like with hunting, I didn't enjoy it to start with. I was like on it, which, like I said, it worried me a lot because I've lost my passion. But I stuck to it, and then I went through, so that got that back again. I was like, right, I want to make a hunting brand, but I don't know how. I don't know what brand to make it. I don't know what to. Obviously, all the hunting, and I spoke to Ash Strange was really good to start with. She's obviously on the Stony Creek test team. She was talking about how you know how hard it is for people to get into you know the outdoor clothing business, just with all the research and the competition, like, you know, with Hunter's Element, Stony Creek, and like the big dogs and all that. So but then she sort of hinted to me as well. She's like, you know, because I was doing the training, like I managed to convince my parents, because they had obviously the second house in Waikanae, which I live at by myself. But I convinced them to build, if I could build the gym in the backyard, as sort of something to, you know, just to really keep my head a bit busy. Little mental goals, and then I training in the backyard was big, and then so the fitness side of it, because I was always quite fit, obviously going from the army, and had a fair bit of knowledge with it as well. You know, walking, especially with the hunting side, of, you know, rocking up hills with packs on and being out in the bush for weeks and weeks and weeks. You know, applying that to the physical side of hunting was probably, you know, more smarter. Is where the brand has come from. So, and instead of it being like a soul, it is an outdoors brand, but not to the extent of Stony Creek. Yeah, like this. Well, so it will be. Yeah, I will be throwing gear out. I have gear being designed in China at the moment, so which will be pretty cool. So throw that out. But there is other stuff to look at as well. Like you know, I've thought about really doing the research into hunting training, like being able to get yourself fit. And so maybe looking along the lines of some sort of online training program for hunters to be able to do that before, like a pre-hunting package that they can do, something fully body weight, so you don't need to go to a gym, something like that. Obviously, because if you look at the market for the New Zealand hunter, like, they're not going to go buy a training plan. You know, it's just, you know, there's not a market really for that, I don't think. But, you know, you never know. But, you know, if you throw a training plan that's all full body weight, you know, you sort of look for that fighting physique, and put that out there. You know, I think hunters are probably more inclined to maybe give it a crack. And obviously the marketing on top of it. I think the Yanks are a bit different. Because all their hunting's seasonal, so you probably are more likely to do a training program. Which is a good thing about the internet. You can obviously sell it over there, but like, yeah, because, you know, they're packing out moose and all that sort of shit. So it's probably being fit is a massive part of hunting over there, I think. So
or I'd say hiring a guide with a pack of horses to get it out. I think that's also a good move.
Yeah, right, that is it. Definitely it. But yeah, I think that's the like I said, man, like I don't know, it's hard to actually call it a brand, like, at the moment. It's more just a fucking Instagram page, really. But
that's cool.
It is really early days. Like, it's yeah, it takes years for things to evolve and come up with new ideas and just see what happens. I try not to. People build it up to more what it is. Like, I've had like a couple of, I mean, like Nade's, she called me a businessman and an entrepreneur, and I'm just like, I'm definitely not a businessman.
Maybe
I'm a businessman.
just put aspiring to it, and then it's like still positive and still meaningful, but you're not cutting it down, because you are doing it, man. You are doing it.
Yeah, but well, it is. Yeah, it is. I don't know. I've never, coming from the army and the mining and stuff, never being, labelled a businessman is very.
I guess
It's different. It's
yeah,
different.
I guess if we look at, the purpose of this podcast is to showcase people that are doing it and give yourself examples. If you look at, the people coming out of the army who are, military people and then going into business, there's no shortage of examples there. You look at Jocko Willink, for example. There's a guy, Ryan Muncie, who's got a successful podcast, The Order of Man. As I said, Brady Cervantes, he's a bull rider, and like works with the guys at Sonex. There's Mark Devine, who has Seal Fit, which a couple of CrossFit gym that I was at in Australia that they went and did, and I did some trainings with them, and holy heck, I don't know how you keep that up for 52 hours, but I guess that's the point of paying your money and going to it. Like we had Aaron Blaine on here, he's involved with Everyman and taking the expeditions on. So like, it is easy to like, go with that thought of, mate, I'm not good enough, or I don't know what I'm doing. But actually all these people were in that same spot, and it's just about and at least, like it is with hunting, it's just out there doing it. Business is the same. You've got to be out there doing it, or else you're not going to make any money or do anything sitting on your couch scrolling through Instagram, although that's part of your business. But making that a useful tool is what it's all about.
Yeah, right. It's like the cool thing about it too is obviously having two really good mates of who do run online, because obviously there's Fitzy with Warfighter Athletic, and then I got another good mate who runs Hard to Kill Fitness, which is another big sort of online training program sort of thing, and this aimed predominantly at the Americans, their forces. So but it's good to have them. So we were talking about doing stuff like doing some sort of joint project, we call it.
Good, man. Good.
We're all mates just having fun. Sort of stuff like yesterday, just rocking around, just blazing gats and having a bit of fun. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that you did right. I mean, like Black Rifle Coffee Company are all veterans.
Tim Kennedy, I was just thinking that.
They've done really, really well. So it'll be interesting to see. But I like you said, right, I do. It's funny. It's quite. I come across as, especially on Instagram and stuff, as a very confident speaker on a camera or something like that. You get told that, bro, it takes me about 20 takes to actually get it right. Like I'm like. Oh yeah, and
you do it behind the scenes.
Yeah, bro. Because I replay myself. I'm like, Vanator outdoors. And then I'll fumble the words up or something. And then I'll start it again, and then it's quite funny. It's funny how Instagram. But that's the thing too, man. Like, I didn't want Vanator to seem fake. And there's times too where, because I was doing a lot of stuff in my story, like doing a lot of the training and shit. And then obviously, so to be able to do it, I had to set my phone up and then do the workout, and then show what it is, and then post it. And then I sort of found, I watched what's this thing from Johnny Tuivasa Sheck when he sort of said, the Instagram PT trainer, and he was taking the piss, and he was doing the exact same thing that I was doing, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that now.
He is funny.
Yeah, but I was like, like say with the hunting too, man, I don't try to make it everything real. If it's not real, then I won't post it. It's not out to be. I think trying to, obviously, especially with something like Vanator as a community-based brand, like it's you sort of have to be quite real. Hence the mental health, and try to be very very, because that was it too. Like I think when I started it as well, a lot of coming home, a lot of guys I grew up, I knew, had committed suicide. And it was quite, I had it in my head. I was like, I would really want to try and do something about this. Like I really want to, I know what I'm going through. I know that I've, obviously had, my own dark thoughts and stuff, and I don't wished it upon anyone else. So if there was a way that I could, articulate it through a brand and make people feel, that make guys especially and women. I think what I would love as well is to, especially with the podcast thing, is get some women who maybe who speak about their issues and so just understand it from a woman's perspective too, like, mental health and what because I'm sure it's a lot different to men. And good thing about women is they're a lot more open about it. So yeah.
I was listening to something the other day that was like saying about how, women are 2 more times likely to have depression than men. And it was like, no. Women are 2 more times likely to be diagnosed with depression than men. Just look at, like you said, just look at suicide. It's actually the other way around. 2/3 of men and 1/3 of women. So it's maybe that there's equal parts, but the third of men that do have depression and don't get diagnosed are taking their lives, and actually the split is the split. 1/3 of the women get help, and the other 1/3 of the men don't get help. And obviously, then there's the people that it's even more difficult to help, and that's where these developments and the likes of psychedelic therapy or whatever might be the answer, because when the current medication is only as good as a placebo, and with my partner and she's happy to, for me to sort of say those things, postnatal depression, it's been a hard road to try to find some help with that, and going to a couple of doctors, and unfortunately that's where the likes of us have to be careful that we're not the people that give you the professional help. And that was what Jocko was just on Tim Ferriss, and he sort of said, when it comes to that suicidal thought or depression and stuff, get professional help. Do all the things, but get professional help. And that's where it's tough. And you see a lot of life coaches and our brand's spreading positive messages. But the bottom line is, if you are feeling that way, do go get some help.
Bro, I did definitely I said in my last podcast, because I hated people saying to me like, you need to go do this, you need to you did right, and you need professional help. But the hard part is actually convincing someone that that you need to go and do it. It's because I backed out. I was told a few years ago that I needed to go see someone about it, and I didn't. And it spiraled, and I definitely think you're right. I think talking to Fitz yesterday as well, referencing Fitz a lot. Good bloke. He Gary, I think it was Gary V or something. I'm not sure, but he was saying you don't try telling people you need to do something is is not how you should say. You should say, this is what I would do. This is what that's what I So I try to say I went and got professional help. I went on medication. That's what I did, as opposed to this is what you need to do. So I think
you're exactly right. And that's the same with my job. It's kind of like it gets to the point where I can say I'd recommend, and then it's like, well, if I was in your position, here's what I do. Here's your options. Here's what I do. Here's the best thing you can do. And obviously the real difficult thing in this country is that the massive barrier is cost, and that's not the fault of this clinical psychologist, because people need to realize that clinical psychologists done a 4-year honours degree in psychology and then gone on done 2-year clinical psychology course. That's a massive undertaking, and quite often they're running sole charge and having to employ the staff out the front. They make the appointment, run the book, pay the building. There's a reason why it costs so much. But at the same time, we're in this place where so many of us as a country are ill prepared to deal with it, and we're seeing dire consequences. And so, what do you do? As Rob Dunn said, you look after those 5 people close to you, and then, like you just said, explain. Like you said, I've had help. I can say I've had help. I've been and seen a clinical psychologist and done psychotherapy, and constantly check in with people and listen to those things and do those things. And sometimes I don't, and then I feel like shit and wonder why. But
bro. Well, I think too, like I was saying in the last podcast, therapy's like it's $160 an hour, man. Like
man.
that's expensive, bro. Like it's and plus like there's not enough of them as well because they're not just dealing with depression, they're dealing with like eating disorders or other sort of mental
or like full on mental
yeah
not full on, but like psychotic stuff.
yeah, bro. Like that's it. 'Cause to actually try and get in there to see one is actually quite hard. Well, first of all, you got to be able to fund it, and then you got to be able to
if you're working, get time off work.
Yeah, that's it, bro. Like, and actually get into and have a good one too, bro. Because that's it. So, like, because there's plenty of people probably with a psychology degree who are probably fucking hopeless. Like, like not ideally. Well, whatever, like not good at communicating or on a personality basis or something like that. So I think definitely having I was very lucky that I had an awesome therapist. She was she was awesome. Like I feel really bad. Her name was Polly, and I feel bad because I always want to shout her out, but I forgot her last name.
Do you know what clinic she runs?
She runs one in Wellington. It's no, I don't actually. No, I can't remember. But I will. Polly, I'll make sure on our next podcast I'll get you on there.
Yeah, awesome. I think you brought up a good point there as well. Like, I can't remember what the theory is, but what I saw it was in relation to the likes of climate change or whatever. And it's like a little bit of knowledge is actually quite dangerous. And I find that with optometry, we get taught a degree and then we go do it. But I'm so lucky in the place I'm at right now. I've got 40 years knowledge, I've got 30 years knowledge, and I've got 15 years knowledge or 13 years knowledge. Yeah. And it's like staying humble and your knowledge is so good. And that like you said, can probably is a little bit dangerous that there's a bunch of people out there that have got psychology degrees or they've done a little bit of CBT, or they've gone to a Tony Robbins conference and thought, shit, I'm a life and meaning coach. And I joke that podcasting is a little bit like this, that we all just go on each other's podcasts and nobody else is actually listening. But I think from the outside in, I think life coaching to some extent is a little bit like that. They all seem to be just coaching each other, but that's not to bag on people as an individual. But there's a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous, especially when it comes to the certain levels of mental health. If you're sort of charging somebody and you're not actually the person to give them the help, and that's where someone that's on a medical board. That's the good thing about a medical board, is that there's referral lines, there's documentation going on, there's scopes of practice, and as soon as you identify that, hey, I'm not the person to help this, you can promote the problem. But if you're just touting a certificate or a course or sharing some little knowledge or little idea, then you might get into trouble. So, and I'm sure there's some great people out there that are doing amazing things, and they're coming at it from an awesome place. But it's tough. It's tough because, like we've said, there needs to be more. There needs to be more access, and we've got a big problem. We don't have the answers here.
Well, that's it, bro. Like I think I don't know. Because I had through the whole ordeal, I had a really good mate of mine and his wife, and she works with mental health, and she works for I don't know what it's called. I think it's like a crisis. She works for sort of like a crisis team. She goes down to the cells, the police station, and she can identify who has mental health issues and stuff like that. And she works she's pregnant, first of all, and she works massive hours. She works so hard. She cares. She was very, very helpful for me. And then I sort of hear, I think Mike King made a statement recently about mental health workers, and that they, I don't quite, I didn't hear it myself. I haven't heard it, but I don't think it was a very positive light on mental health workers. They, so something along the lines of they weren't doing their job properly or something, which I think is very hard, man. Like it's hard because especially when amazing people like her do, awesome things for, to publicly sort of say something like that I don't think it's quite fair. But
and probably in probably in his defense, a lot of what he's speaking to is the environment of it. And, you know, it's the same when we sort of bag on the medical system as a whole, you know, that it's actually sick care, it's not health care. But, you know, you go to your GP and they're under the pressure of sort of everybody for 15 minutes. And then we wonder why people with mental health get miss, because you can't diagnose and treat that in 15 minutes. And
that is it, man. That is it.
It becomes a lottery if you got the right medication or not. But at the same time, it's a systemic system. As I said, you know, that people are going, and like you said with your friend, you know, they work so hard. They're coming from such a great place. They're trying to help people, but from a systemic basis, it's difficult to reach everyone. It's difficult to make an impact for everybody, and they're the people that are working their ass off and trying so hard. And it's the same with doctors. It's the same with, you know, as I said, not to bag on people that are life coaches. It's the same with them. They're just trying to help and trying to, you know, optimize people. But, you know, from a system, like I said, there's not enough psychologists around. There's not enough time. We don't have enough money as an earning population, especially as young people. And you know, obviously we don't have all the answers. We're just talking about that issue. Yeah.
There's it, right? It's I don't know. It's so there's so much to it. Like,
yeah,
you know, you can see why the battle. It's such like it's a war. The war of mental health. It's just, you know, it's just so many different angles, so many different levels of it, and you know, I hope statistics change in something like, because it's you know, the suicide and you know the last, I suppose, the, you know, suicide itself is one of the most horrible experiences. Even to hear about it, like, it's very, and just the way it ripples into, you know, ripples through families and ripples through, you know, into, you know, communities and stuff like that. You know, young people, you know, committing suicide and stuff, and then I remember my mum was talking to someone. Oh no, my aunt, because my auntie is a GP. My auntie was a GP, and she had one of her patients was a mother, and her son had committed suicide, and she didn't want a funeral because she didn't want someone else to do it. Yeah. She didn't want it to be seen as, you know, which is so, hearing stuff like that is really, you know, it's just, you know, it's sad. Like, it's, I mean,
yeah, and that's where the sort of media hasn't been talking about it, is because of that notion that perhaps there'll be copycats. But, you know, maybe that's hasn't been right. You know, it's a bit like the dietary guidelines. We thought we had an idea about something, but actually we haven't solved anything. So maybe we try something different. Yeah, and like you say, yeah, the ripples, and you know, somebody that's been on this podcast just, you know, posted yesterday that their brother had committed suicide. You know, an ex-military guy, and yeah, it's just like he's thinking, there's another one to the statistics, and you know, he wrote something fantastic messages as well. But you know, like you say, the ripples of it, you're just like, oh man, you know, what is it? And that's what I sort of with Aaron Blaine, I was talking to him, because he is somebody that, you know, has had those feelings, and like he said, he just would, you know, on occasions pack his revolver and walk to the bush, but came back, and I sort of said, you know, is it the case of that you killed that person inside you, and then you were reborn, and you started afresh and started anew, and that's what what he learned from that experience, if it was anything, was that actually sitting with that feeling of dire straits and crap, you know, and doing something symbolic of it, you know, it once you're through it, and once you've cried your heart out and felt that way, that then you can move on and you can leave that person behind it. And you know, that's probably where talking as guys is better, because we can all sort of find that we've got the same thoughts, we've got those same feelings, and we've all made the mistakes, and that actually we don't need to be so hard on ourselves and move on, because we're all on a journey and we're all learning. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, man. Well, that's dead right, bro. Like, I you know, I get worried talking about my, you know, obviously having suicidal thoughts. I don't know how people, would view it, or how it's looked at, or how how to. I think the trouble with it is really how to explain it. Obviously coming home, I remember having so much stress when I came home, and I was feeling like I've come home. I'm 29 years old. I have broken up with, a girlfriend. I was supposed to be having all these things. I was supposed to be traveling. I was supposed to be, had all these things going for me. And now I'm back here and I can't, it's just that feeling of feeling very useless.
Mm-hmm.
was very hard, and it was very stressful. And then, obviously on top of the lack of sleep and stuff too, it's, I remember walking through New World with my mum with my hood up, and just feeling like I felt like I had the sense that I was like a handicapped child or something like that, like just walking around behind my mum, and then I was that stressed and very, I do remember the scary thought was, because I find too that when you're in this and you're in that headspace, you have your mind is cut into two pieces. Like you sort of, you have the resilient side, you sort of your self-conscious mind that's very resilient, and it goes, it's like talking, self-motivating, like, talking to yourself, keeping it, keeping yourself alive. Like, she's like, come on, man, we'll get through this. It'll be sweet. Just keep pushing on and stuff. And then you get the dark side of it, and they're sort of saying, oh man, like, just, end it. Like, just who cares? People have done it. It'll be easier than this. And then, so for the most part, the strong side takes charge. Like it does, you can talk your way, and then you sort of have, but then when you're so physically exhausted, the darker side sort of becomes a bit more overwhelming. And I think I remember that in New World, because I remember having the feeling of having something around my neck was very scary, and it was actually very scary. Like I wasn't going to be able to stop myself. And I think I had to tell, had to tell mum, had to tell my parents, like, that I'm having, and I remember, and the other, that was that time. And then there was another time when I was in Argentina, and I was in a hostel, and I was on the phone to my parents, and I was crying. I was at rock bottom. That was definitely at rock bottom. And I remember my dad saying to me, are you thinking of hurting yourself? And I said, yes. And he's just like, well, don't, just get you home. So I do remember being up in obviously in the hostel, we were right up the top. Well, I was right up the top, and the thought of jumping off I was actually scared, because that was another time when I was very exhausted, and I was sort of scared that that I was going to jump off. That was a very scary time. Suicide should. I think there's a stigma behind it too. Like, people sort of say, like, how real is it? When someone brings it up, like, are they actually for real, or are they just talking shit, or But I think now, like, when someone talks to me about suicide, I take it very seriously. So, because I know, it's a very horrible mindset to be in, and it takes a lot to get out of. Like, it takes a lot of time. It takes, like, time literally slows down. Like, you sort of, an hour feels like a day. You kind of, and then you just get the old people saying, oh, things will get better, and you're just like, no, when are they going to get better? It is a very uphill battle. But yeah, speaking up and saying something is definitely the key. Like you said, getting professional help is definitely my strongest recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like you're saying, that exhaustion and that slowing down, that exactly is like the word says, depression. Your body's depressed. It's wanting you to stop. It's you're bugging you at the end. Stop.
Yeah, man.
And unfortunately, with that, it comes with a cloudy head. And yeah, mate, let's turn something to a bit more positive.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
where do people find you? What can they expect? And it's going to be a little bit of a watch and see, but I'm bloody excited about what it's going to be. So let us know where to find you and where to you're contactable way, mate.
Yeah, bro. Always, man. I'm always up for a conversation, especially just on obviously on the Vanator Outdoors page. If not, on Instagram or Facebook. And then there's a link to my personal page, which I'll probably put a bit more stuff on there, make it look a bit nicer. But here's the Flannelette Hunter. So just with the emails and stuff, it's all on Instagram. It's all there. Obviously Vanator Outdoors, very new brand. So see how it turns out. It's a bit of trial and error, really. I'm still learning the ropes, but always keen to talk about hunting. We'll talk about mental health or any way to help, and the training as well, fitness. Man, the podcast starting soon, which will be you'll be definitely on there, bro. I'll
awesome.
Have another long-winded conversation, which I'll look forward to, man.
Yeah, bro.
Some other people keen to get involved, so
man. We'll have to. You can hear it in the background.
Yeah, bro.
We'll have to organise a hunt. I know I've said that with. I think I'm up to 2 hands now with the amount of people that I've got that lined up.
I do too, bro. I'm so guilty of that as well. I've actually got to go hunting with people, so yeah.
No, working, mate.
Yeah.
So what would you like to leave us with, mate? A thought or a quote or something that doesn't do you wrong, keeps you going, keeps you positive?
Well, God, I don't know. I think what's a positive thought? I got one. I think for anyone who is having a rough time or knows someone having a rough time, I really strongly things happen for a reason, and sometimes it takes a whole world to fall apart for the pieces to fall back together. So it's the one I'll so keep charging. Yeah.
Working, man. Awesome. I'm going to hit stop for the second time. And
mate.
There. Thank you so much.
Nah, cool, man. Sweet.
Cheers.
All right, brother.